Hey everyone, my name is Kelsey Miller. This is the third episode of the Writing Diaries, and today we're going to talk about the first sentence. So why are we talking about the first sentence? Well, in my experience, the first sentence of a book is generally the most important part of the novel. The purpose of a book is to be read, right? So the first time you pick up a new novel, what do? You open to the first page, and you generally read the first few sentences. And if those sentences are something that you really enjoy, you keep reading. If they're kind of meh, you put the book down and carry on your merry way, trying to find a book to read. Obviously, this is why the first sentence of your novel is really, really important. In fact, I would suggest spending as much time as you possibly can trying to come up with this one sentence. It seems really extreme, but the fact is, if you have a really good first sentence, chances are the sentences that follow, they'll be pretty good too. And that means people will probably want to keep reading, and that's exactly what you want. So what does a good sentence look like? Is it long, short, fancy, plain? Truth is, it could be any one of these things. But the fact is, what your first sentence needs to have is something of interest. It has to have a hook that'll make people read the next sentence. How about I show some examples so that you know what I'm talking about? Here we have Charles Dickens's A Tale of Two Cities. A classic, right? So let's see what his first sentence is. In fact, you've probably already heard it before because it's so famous. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief, it was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light, it was the season of darkness. It was the spring of hope, it was the winter of despair. We had everything before us, we had nothing before us. We were all going direct to heaven, we were all going direct the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period that some of its noisiest authorities insisted on its being received, for good or for evil, in the superlative degree of comparison only. Now, that was quite a sentence, admittedly. More like a paragraph. But we can all agree that we have at least heard that first part, right? It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It is so catchy and intriguing that generally everyone knows about it, and you want to read on when you go past that sentence. Let's try another one, because that one was a little bit dense, right? How about An Abundance of Catherines, a book we all should know and love. The morning after noted child prodigy Colin Singleton graduated from high school and got dumped for the 19th time by a girl named Catherine, he took a bath. Now, I don't know about you, but I definitely wanted to keep reading after I read that sentence. Here's a different direction. A Theory of Justice, one of my textbooks. And what is the first sentence of this wonderful book? In this introductory chapter, I sketch some of the main ideas of the theory of justice I wish to develop. Yes, it's not the most interesting sentence, but for a textbook, it actually does outline where it's going, and since textbooks generally are for knowledge, outlining where you're going is probably a pretty effective manner of starting a book, right? I scowl with frustration at myself in the mirror. Alright, so I'm trolling a little bit now, but you get the idea, right? The first sentence generally is the most important, and it definitely tells where the story is going. Now, arguably, these could be kind of bleh, or they could be very knowledgeable, or plain awesome, or, you know, really famous and just completely epic. But the point is, your book is often going to be remembered for that first impression. And if it's a good one, you've succeeded and people are going to read your story. And if it's kind of a blah, not good one, or just whatever, people aren't going to read your book. I think we can all agree that the first sentence is the most important sentence of your entire book. I'll see you next week.